Hi everybody, my name is Aurora from Armed Heart, for those who don't know me. For those who do know me, happy to share with you some information here as well, and thank you for supporting me always, as you always do. I love your questions and your comments. We're alive with knowledge at all times. Thank you for that. I appreciate your support as well through all of this. All of us supporting each other on this channel. I've got a few information tidbits I'd like to share with you, things that have just been popping up into my consciousness. Literally, things are as they have been. We've discussed this before. If you haven't seen the chaos magic video previously to this video, then I'd suggest you do. This gives you a little bit of a background as to how things are progressing, or how things are really in this reality. Now, first of all, I don't want to use the name that we know it to be, because I don't want this video to get tracked or taken off or stopped. I'm going into the breaking down of this information. So if I give you a bunch of information bits, then sit with it and let it work with you. Play with it a bit in your mind and see how it fits and works. Okay, so I'd like to start off. I started my this video, I called it the untethering of the shadow and the crowning of a mental war. And the reason I'm bringing it up that way is because if you had to take that word, and I will break that word down, I will call it the crown. I will not call it what it's being called now today. So anything that has that word tied into it, unless I say otherwise, is crown. So from etymology online, and I will put a link at the bottom, I've put down a little note here. I will asterisk that word so you know what I'm talking about when I put it in my quotes as well. In 1650, a crown, from Latin meaning that word, meaning a crown or garland in ancient Rome, especially a crown or garland bestowed for distinguished military service. It's very important that you take note what it means. It means distinguished military service, to be crowned. Now there's a picture in my head, there's somewhere that I've seen a symbol where a crown on top of a sword would also denote the ace of swords. Ace of Swords in tarot. It means the Ace of Swords suggests the crown in the Ace of Swords, and on top of the sword means specifically the clarity and force behind one's own thoughts. It also means that if there's a crowning on particular thought forms or thought patterns, that's also what needs to be taken in consideration. You can't say whether this card does not mean it's negative or positive. It just means that's what it represents. With relation to other cards, it does give a different story. Anyway, that's just a little bit of some information on tarot, for example, where this is also, the symbol is very prominent, the crowning of a sword, the crowning of the conscious mind, the thoughts. Another excerpt here as well from the same etymology online has to do with in 1969 they found this particular virus. Kid you not, it was found in 1969 and is also referencing to spikes that protrude from its membranes and resemble the tines of a crown, or the crown of the sun. So if your thoughts are at war, there is definitely a militarization taking place. I mean, if your thoughts are fighting itself, if you are in war with your thoughts, then you are in a militarized, this is figuratively speaking, state of consciousness. If there is a crowning that has thorns in it that are sticking into your head, then you are crucifying or crowning your conscious thoughts. You're beating yourself up. It also denotes in reference to Jesus being crowned in the Bible. Okay, and then there's another thing which is also very interesting, and just bear with me on this. It might sound a little bit technical, but there is a point to this. We have 2 crown constellations with that name. I'm going to call it Crown Borealis and Crown Australis, and these are constellations that have been found in the Ptolemaic age of astrology or astronomy. In an astronomically sense, it's also a luminous circle that is observed around the sun during certain times of eclipses since 1809. And then another thing that's also very interesting is that the Crown Borealis north and the Crown Australis south. So we have north and south, and we have a war between north and south. Your thoughts and your feelings or your actions. There are some Greek mythological stories connected to the Crown Borealis, which was linked to the legend of Theseus and the minotaur. Just for interest's sake, the myth between Theseus and minotaur was about Androgeus, son of Minos. I'm just reading to you from the site here. Had been killed by the Athenians, who were jealous of the victories he had won at the Panathenaik festival. Others say he was killed at Marathon by the Cretan bull, the mother's former Taurine lover, which Aegeus, king of Athens, had commanded him to slay. So that's the story of Theseus and the Minotaur. The Crown Borealis legend suggests that it was generally considered to represent a crown given by Dionysus to Ariadne, the daughter of Minos of Crete. And then we also get the Cretan bull. Okay, after she had been abandoned by the Athenian prince Theseus. Okay, so Theseus represents the masculine principle that abandons the soul, or the feminine, which is the female, or the daughter of Minos. Her name starts with Aria, which would represent air or thoughts. And if the masculine principle abandons the thought or the Aria, then you will find a type of crowning taking place where it would create some sort of disturbance. The daughter is also feminine, representative of the soul. So if the soul is abandoned by the soul, which is feminine, is abandoned by the prince, which is masculine, who was the slayer of a bullman, it means that you have abandoned your mind, to put it like that. If you let go of your masculine principles, then you don't create anymore. You just sit without any form or structure. Now, the other myth has to do with the south, the Crown Australis, which is the root or the origin. Recap: War of the North and War of the South, North and South. Thoughts versus feelings and actions. This story has a different side to it, except it's got the same characters in it, which is quite interesting. It suggests that it starts off with a seduction of a mortal by Zeus, who is the old patriarchal father or god from back in the day, and the maiden in question being Semele, daughter of King Cadmus of Thebes. So Zeus, the god, the external forms of consciousness, external elements, like we've discussed this before, and with regards to the masculine and feminine principles, is masculine, and he seduces the daughter, the soul, with whatever, with his control, with his previous old beliefs. So if I give over to my old beliefs and my old feelings and things, then I definitely offer myself up, and I'm seduced by an old god of a system, of an old system of beliefs. It's said that the god disguised himself as a handsome mortal in order to win her affection, and their affair continued for many months. Okay, so the soul then obviously gave you with your choices, you allow your soul to be controlled by external beliefs, and so the seduction starts and the affair really takes place. This is, again, as I said, figuratively speaking. So Zeus's wife, Hera, which we know is also a witch, a name for witch, or Hera is the queen of the gods and was also the wife and sister of Zeus, and she is known for being the goddess of marriage and birth. Interesting how that happens. Remember, all of these stories are figuratively speaking with regards to how we are and how our relations are within ourselves, our souls, our spirits, our physical forms, and how we exist in this world, and how we actually take part in the story, in the myths. Despite being the goddess of marriage, she was also known to be jealous and vengeful towards many lovers of Zeus. Interesting how that happens too. So, coming back to the story of the Autrialis myth, Zeus's wife found out. She was very upset, and she transformed herself into an elderly serving maid, which means consulting something that is older in feminine form, which requires you to go within your deeper consciousness, going back and retracing the shadows which we are dealing with right now, becoming still, and urging her to ask her lover to reveal his true identity. So then you're having deeper thoughts, and you really are then working on your conscious feelings, where you fit in, how did you manage to lose your path. This is how so many people often say, but I feel lost, where am I? When you know that you are lost, you then stop and you go back and you do self-analysis. You connect with your shadow. So when Hera came to this woman, and the woman then said, okay, no, well, it's Zeus and all of that stuff, Zeus was so upset, he actually struck Semele with a thunderbolt awareness. He suddenly realized, oh my gosh, I've lent my ears out to all kinds of stories, which came to me and seduced me like a god from the olden days. You are then struck by a thunderbolt, and that thunderbolt strikes you in your in your third eye, on your mind, within your conscious thoughts. So then Zeus saved this unborn child, which was then being birthed by this woman that he took as a lover, and he stuck the child. He attached the child onto his to his thigh. Now, that is when you put something, when you attach something to your thigh, with reference to nurturing something that's being born, like in this mythology story, it suggests that you are harboring something. You're keeping it close, and if you're keeping it attached to your thigh, it means that you will keep this as a card that you will your ace of cards you'll keep hidden, so that you can react on it by moving forward, which is the thigh. Thigh is connected to your movements of your legs, of your feet, not so. Then they're to be unnurtured until his actual birth. That I guess the baby was then born. The boy was then also called Dionysus, and when fully grown, he ventured into the underworld to retrieve Semele's soul, which means after you've learned your lesson, you then think about it in hindsight, and you will then go to the underworld to retrieve whatever you've lost or you've left behind. In other words, the underworld is the shadow. The underworld, which is also the southern part which is the opposite of north, which is also your actions, your roots, your identity, and all of that. When you go and retrieve your soul from the underworld, you retrieve your identity back to yourself again after you've realized you've made a mistake. So, what I really want to bring to you with regards to all these stories that I've just brought up to you for you and shared with you, I'd like to suggest to you to take in consideration this piece of work, and that you take with you that that as it is right now, which connects to the chaos magic, a war between the conscious thoughts, the mental thoughts, with the south, which is your root, your identity. Take mind that also when there is a crowning or of the sun, that it creates or casts an eclipse over the heart, which requires you to become still, to become aware, and that shadow, those old stuff that come back from childhood, when they come back, those are the shadows you have to clear up within yourself. This period that we're in right now, as I have said to you as well, to transmute it, to become still, to then be in connection with the things of the past that do come through your thoughts, because it will happen. It's logical that it will happen. It's normal for it to happen. It's how you heal. To be mindful that if the child comes through, of the childhood memories, of the childhood times, that you acknowledge this. And then I would like to ask you to try at least the exercise when you sit still and you start to tell yourself, you identify who you are. You can say, I am, I as in eyes, I am as in the heart, and in your root energy, that you are happy, or you are calm, or I am John, or I am Peter, etc., etc. I am. Practice I am. Irrespective of what everybody says to you about what I am really means, I am is in actual fact just a connection to identification in this plane that we require. I hope these thoughts, as all over as they may appear to be, make some semblance of sense. Thank you so much for supporting me, and we will talk again. Thank you. Much love.